of his time. Just another reminder that this is the most difficult game to play, in my opinion. But for him to play as well as he did, having not really played the game until the 10th grade, and the coach wasn't even sure if he was right-handed or left-handed, and then became this good. It's a real tribute to the athletic ability of and the desire of Lorenzo Cain.
So I'm sure you've heard the same thing in the last couple of years as they've had this conversation about reducing the rounds of the draft, where people at the team level have been saying, what are we doing? Like, why are we reducing the rounds of the draft? Look at these guys who maybe didn't play a lot of baseball when they were teenagers and then, picked it up later in life. And, those guys were not going to be able to find them. Lorenzo Cain was a 17th round pick by the Brewers in 2004. Kevin Kiermaier was a late round pick. Those guys became some of the best center fielders. Lorenzo Cain has been mentioned to me a half dozen times, Tim, in the last couple of years as a cautionary tale for baseball and why it shouldn't reduce the draft. I'm guessing for you as well.
I totally agree. Kenny Rogers, a little off topic here, was a 135-pound left-handed shortstop outfielder when the Rangers said this kid's got a great arm. So they drafted him as a pitcher. And that first spring training, they put him on the mound and they said, all right, we want you to go from the stretch. And he goes, I don't know how to do that. I've never done that before. He didn't even know how to pitch out of the stretch and ended up, ironically, having one of the great pickoff moves we've ever seen. This is why we need as many rounds as we can, because there's a diamond in there somewhere, even though he might not be that guy precisely coming out of high school.
So my ears perked up when you told that story. Kenny Rogers played shortstop, a left-handed shortstop?
Yes, I know the guy who signed him. I know the guys who scouted him. And when they brought him to camp, they said, all right, let's see what you got on the mound, because we think you can be pretty good. And he won like 200 major league games. Incredible.
All right, over the weekend, we had a ton of injuries to superstar players. And so, Tim, I always like to do this with you, put you on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of your level of concern. How big of a deal is this particular injury? So I'm going to run through the names of players. First off, we'll start out Manny Machado going down in a heap after he hit first base awkwardly on Sunday. Scale of 1 to 10, how big of a deal is this for you?
It's a 9. Anyone who's ever rolled his ankle like that, first off, can't even watch the replay because it's too painful if you've ever done that. And on my tiny little level, I did both ankles so badly. He's going to be out a month, maybe more than that. And he's had an MVP caliber season. They are not a good offensive team, and he is by far their best offensive player. And you take him out of the lineup for a month and then ask him to come back on what's going to be a gimpy ankle, I'm sure, after, say, a month. That's not going to be easy to do, especially when you're trying to play third base in the major leagues.
Yeah, part of me was bummed out, Tim, for Manny, because I feel like this is someone who has evolved, as a player and as a person in the big leagues. And having an injury like this, where he's going to be out this long, probably is going to wind up costing him a shot at the MVP. Yes?
Yeah, I think so, especially when there are other guys out there, Paul Goldschmidt included, who are having sensational years. And the way you win the MVP is you play all the games, or as many as possible. And if Manny Ramirez is going to lose 30 games, which I hope he doesn't, that's really going to affect his MVP candidacy.
Mookie Betts went on the injured list over the weekend with a cracked rib. It's believed to have happened in a collision he had with Cody Bellinger last week. Betts told reporters that he thinks that he's going to miss just a couple of weeks. Scale of 1 to 10, how big of a deal is this?
All right, I've got it as a 7, not to underestimate a rib injury. Anyone who's ever broken a rib, and again, on my tiny level, I did that, and oh my gosh, when I would sneeze, it would hurt like I couldn't believe. So, and remember all the trouble that Mookie had last year with that hip injury. One of the Dodgers whispered to me recently, nobody knows how badly he was hurt last year, and it affected his play in every way. So Mookie's not going to be the kind of guy who's going to say, this is really bothering me. I just hope he rested and comes back, because he's so athletic. He's so great. and they need to get him healthy. So I got him on as a 7 because they have other offensive options, but he's their best player, period.
So I think, at the time that they signed Freddie Freeman, there were stories about whether or not the Dodgers might have the greatest offense ever. I always thought that all was very overstated. I am convinced now, Tim, that the Dodgers might win the National League West this year. They might go into the postseason, the favorite to come out of the National League. But this year, I think it's almost assuredly going to be an absolute grind for them, given how improved the Padres are. Fernando Tatis Jr. coming back. And inevitably, I think the Giants will make a run. What about you?
Yeah, look, I saw the Dodgers too, and I think they're going to the playoffs, and I think they'll be really good in October, but I never bought greatest lineup of all time. The 39 Yankees outscored their opponents by 411 runs. Outscored them by 411 runs. And, those Mariner teams, at least one year with the Mariners, the Indians in the late 90s, come on, big red machine. I love the Dodger lineup. I think it'll be devastating by the end of the year, but it's not the greatest lineup I've ever seen. And we've seen that now with Max Muncy struggles, injury to Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman's got 6 homers, pretty hard game to play. And it's hard to score 1,000 runs today. So they're not going to do when you're facing this kind of pitching.
The Angels announced the other day that Anthony Rendon went on the injured list to have season-ending wrist surgery. Scale of 1 to 10, I think it's obvious. A 10, right, for the Angels to lose Anthony Rendon, given the contract that he signed.
Yes, and just go look at the numbers for Anthony Rendon since he signed with the Angels. Oh my gosh, and how much money he's got left. And let's not forget how good a player that guy is. They'll all tell you on that 2019 Nationals, he was the guy in the middle of the order that everyone was. He and Soto, of course, that everyone was most afraid of. And Buster, you start messing with a hitter's wrist, and we know his hands are as good as there are in the game. And you start messing with a hitter's wrists and hands, that's a really bad sign. And the Angels took off this year in that little spurt when they got Anthony Rendon healthy and he was hitting. I just don't know how they make up for this.
Guardians third baseman Jose Ramirez was not in a lineup over the weekend because of a sore thumb. Scale of 1 to 10. How serious an injury in your eyes is this?
Well, I'm going to only go to a 5 on this because I think he's going to be okay. But I repeat, you start messing with a hitter's hands, his fingers, and people say, oh, it can't hurt that much. Well, any foul ball, any swing or miss, any ball off the end of the bat just aggravates that. I hate to hear any hitter having hand, wrist, finger injuries. And he's arguably been the best player in the league, maybe other than Aaron Judge this year. And the Guardians are starting to roll here and really starting to pitch well. Really bad time for an injury to a great player.
I think I would go a tick higher than you mentioned in terms of level of concern, Tim, only because the Guardians can't win without this guy, right? I mean, as great as Aaron Judge is, there's enough support on the Yankee team. I mean, look, it reflects the difference in payroll between the two teams. Like the Yankees could still make the playoffs. If Jose Ramirez isn't healthy, if this is something that lingers for whatever reason, they're a completely different team.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that, Buster. I'm just praying, hoping that a thumb injury is something that he can come back from quicker. If he's out a month, they're in a huge amount of trouble.
Okay, on Saturday, Yordan Alvarez left the Astros game. No one was quite sure why because the Astros didn't tell people. Well, the concern within the Astros organization was that he had suffered a broken hamate. And Dusty Baker told us before the game on Sunday, I was trying to figure out how I was going to replace this guy in the middle of my lineup. They got word back that it was not a broken hamate. It's some kind of a hand injury that they don't think is serious. Scale of 1 to 10, where do you put this one?
Well, I'm going to put this as a 6, and I'm going to put it that high because this guy is a great hitter and was a great hitter as a rookie and has been a great hitter every healthy season since. But they have a 9.5 game lead. The fact that it's not a hamate is probably good news. I'm going to say it for the 3rd time on this podcast. I worry tremendously when you start messing with a good hitter's hands. Those things don't go away anytime soon. So I'm going to put it as 6 because they have such a lead. They can wait till he gets back. And when he gets back, if he's healthy, he's going to rake because that guy is a tremendous hitter.
Alex Introne, the great hitting coach for the Astros, told me before the game yesterday that he really thinks right now, considering what Alvarez has done, I think hitting 396 with 25 RBI in his last 25 games, he thinks he's the best hitter in baseball right now in terms of quality. And he's not talking about, he's speaking about it as if it's something that can change. I mean, obviously Juan Soto, Mike Trout, up and down, but he thinks that the Yordan Alvarez we've seen the last month, the best hitter in baseball. So they're hopeful that he's going to be back in the lineup soon, an incredibly important player. So Tim, I thought of you yesterday when I heard about this, because you know baseball history and you know the long history between Dusty Baker and Tony La Russa. Generally speaking, would you agree that at best their relationship over the last 30 years, you could say it's tense?
I would say that, but I'm going to interrupt here, Buster. I know when Buck Showalter was out there as a non-manager last year, Tony La Russa called him and said, "We need you back in the game." And he had spoken, as far as I know, with Dusty Baker about that exact topic, that maybe we're starting to see people recognizing the value of, experience and age and all that. So I think it's a little better relationship than you think. And I know this is true. Tony told me once that he couldn't get through to a player. Tony gets through to every player. This is in Tony's prime as a manager, but I don't know who the player was. It's not important. He couldn't get through to him. And he called Dusty Baker on the phone, who's managing another team at the time, and said, "What do I have to do to get through to this guy? What would you do to get through to this guy?" So that implies they have a slightly better relationship than you think they have. I'm not saying it's warm and fuzzy all the time, but they're part of the group that's trying to bring experience back. And they've had a couple of private conversations that I think suggest that Tony La Russa has tremendous respect for Dusty Baker and vice versa.
So for years, as you know, especially when they were managing the same division, Dusty with the Cubs and then the Cincinnati Reds and then Tony with the Cardinals, all kinds of stuff about knockdown pitches and hit batsmen, on-field incidents between their teams, a lot of yelling back and forth on the field, these guys going nose to nose. Yesterday, Tim, before the game, I asked Dusty about okay, where's your relationship with Tony now? And first off, I hadn't heard this. In 1972, Tony and Dusty were both in the Atlanta Braves organization, and Dusty was sent to the minor leagues. And the guy who took that spot on the major league roster was Tony La Russa. I didn't know that. And then, fast forward, as you mentioned, Dusty played for Tony at the end of his career. And Tony said that he heard the next spring that Dusty was going to end his career. And he goes, "You know what? Shoot, I wish I had known that because I would have loved to have him on my coaching staff." Well, then they had those many tense years between them. Well, Bob Welch was a teammate of Dusty Baker with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And of course, he played for Tony with the Oakland Athletics. He passed away in recent years. And a mutual friend went up to Dusty and said, "Look, I think Tony wants to talk to you to try to patch this thing up between you." And they actually wound up talking when they were standing side by side at urinals. And he said that's when the conversation began. And then after the Astros beat the White Sox in the playoffs last year, Tony wrote Dusty a letter that was very complimentary. Dusty didn't know quite how to take it. And he acknowledged to us, Tim, that his wife cajoled him and said, "Look, this guy's trying to make an effort to reach out to you after all these issues you've had between you through the years." And so Dusty picked up the phone and called Tony La Russa, and the relationship continues to thaw. Knowing both men, tell me what you think when you hear those stories. We heard that from both Dusty and Tony yesterday.
Yeah, well, that's really good to hear. And let's not forget, Buster, how wildly competitive both those guys are. Okay, Tony La Russa, my goodness, I've been talking to him for almost 40 years. You ask him the same question every time, how you doing? And he says, I'll tell you in 3.5 hours, because all that matters is, did we win the game or not? Dusty is equally competitive. He hates to lose. You throw at Tony's guys, and he becomes a completely different person. You mess with Dusty's players, he becomes a completely different person. And I kind of enjoy that they go at each other during a game because they're supporting their own guys. And that's what a manager's supposed to do.
So as we finish up our conversation with Tony on Sunday, he said Dusty Baker, it should be in the Hall of Fame. And there will be a time when he will make a speech, and you'll agree with me, it'll be the most interesting speech in the history of Hall of Fame speeches when Dusty gets up there because of everybody he knows and everybody he's seen, right?
We'll be talking about wine and solar power and food and Jimi
Hendrix and Sadaharu and
it'll be Hank Aaron and Rico Cardi. I have 100 Dusty stories, and they're all good. And he just volunteers.
Okay, a couple more things for you. The Nationals retired Ryan Zimmerman, his number 11. I know you know Ryan Zimmerman well. What do you think about that?
I'm 100% behind it. It had to be done. Let's not forget, Buster, I was living here at the time. I still live here. He comes up as a 20-year-old. And they threw him in the middle of the lineup and said, you're going to hit third. We know you just got here, but you're going to hit third, and you're also going to be the leader of the team. And the team was terrible. And they had, I'm sorry, I don't say this very often, they had a bunch of bad teammates on that team. And Ryan Zimmerman took a shower once as a very young man, came out of the clubhouse and asked me a question. This hasn't happened since. He said, can I ask you something? I said, well, sure. He goes, aren't you supposed to really care about winning and losing? Because I just got out of the shower and we lost another game, and I'm not sure anybody in there really cared about whether we won or lost. And it infuriated him. And ever since then, from that day on, he has made sure everyone on his team, the Nationals, recognizes the difference between winning and losing. So to put all that pressure and ask him to do everything that he did over the years and add on, you're the leader of the team when you first arrived, that's not fair. It wasn't right. And he still took care of it. And I believe, Buster, he had 9 walk-off homers in his career. That's pretty hard to do, including a home run that opened Nationals Park. He had a walk-off homer to open in the inaugural game at Nationals Park. That kind of speaks to what kind of clutch hitter he was.
Lastly, during the course of the Sunday night game, we had a really fun moment after J.J. Matichevich hit his first career home run. 16-year-old Rylan Freeman tracked down a baseball for that. It was the first career home run. This is what it sounded like subsequently as he talked with Astros officials about turning over the baseball.
Negotiations are going. There we go. Uh-oh, he gave it up.
I love it.
Oh, man.
Of course.
I love it.
Of course.
But what was the cost, and what was the first offer, and what was the end result?
Guys, we got some breaking news. Rylan Freeman, of course, caught that home run ball and negotiated with the Astros. The first thing he asked for was a signed Justin Verlander jersey. Well, that is being sent to him. Justin signing a jersey and sending it along.
That's
Nice.
so great. Buster, you should go out and tell him that. Like, we need to see that reaction. Oh, Ryan is taking off.
And I got to take my tank of oxygen before I do that.
Well,
We got to get it back?
yes. The deals were, here's the deal.
Okay.
Rylan Freeman gets 6 tickets to a game, 6 batting practice access tickets. So he's on the field with 5 of his friends.
Okay, that's good.
That's huge because
But we need more.
That can, and a Jose Altuve signed baseball.
And what else? That's good. What else? Do we have a jersey? Do we have a bat?
Here's where I'm going. I think if I'm on the field with 5 of them, that's where I start another negotiation.
Absolutely.
That was the family that received the baseball and will now receive a Justin Verlander signed jersey to go with the 6 tickets.
So what do you think, Tim? Good negotiation by the 16-year-old?
I think it was great, and I love it. This is what we should be doing. We're trying to get more young people interested in the game. And when something like this happens, we need to throw everything we can at those people and get them involved. That kid will never forget that day for the rest of his life. He will be an Astros fan, a Verlander fan, an Altuve fan, a fan of everyone for the rest of his life. This is great. We need to do more of this. And sorry, if I'm the kid, I give the ball because you have to acknowledge it's way more important to the guy who hit the home run rather than me. But to get something in return, all good.
I knew you would love it, Tim. All right. Great to talk to you. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Buster. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.